Okay, we're going to review chapter 6 of Algebra 1 in this book, dealing with linear equations. First thing we deal with the equations with slope. It says determine the slope of each line. Well, first off, I should know that a line that goes down to the right has a negative slope, up to the right has a positive slope, horizontal has zero slope, and vertical is either, oops, let's move that back. Come on. Vertical is either undefined, UND, or sometimes called no slope. Okay, so you should know that from middle school, pre-algebra. Okay, so we can see E is a zero slope, C is positive, A is undefined, B is negative, and D is negative. Okay, so now how do I find the slope? Obviously, I don't have to for horizontal and vertical, it's right down for me, but for negative and positive, I need to find 2 points in the line. And then I go ahead and draw myself a right triangle if I want. Okay, going from one point down to another point. So it's telling me my direction. So I'm going down how many? 1, 2, 3, 4. -4 and right +2. Right is to the positive. And I should know that slope is change in y over change in x. Okay, the long way of writing that is y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Now don't forget, you can also switch that order and say y sub 1 minus y sub 2 all over x sub 1 minus x sub 2. So the y's are on the numerator, so I went down 4, I went right 2. Can I leave it like that? No, I can't. I need to reduce that fraction or simplify. So the slope is -2 for D. Okay? And that's how you go about doing it. It doesn't matter if I start down here, I'm going to go up and to the left. So up is +2 and left is -2. Okay, again, changing y, +2 over changing x, -2, so that slope is -1. And again, that makes sense. I already told you it's negative, it's going down to the right. Okay, down here, determine the value of r so the line passes through each pair of points has a given slope. So we know it's change in y, 3 minus 2 over change in x, 6 minus r. I draw arrows showing that I'm going that direction, so I'm being consistent. I can't switch directions. That equals 1/2. Well, 3 minus 2 already is 1, so that means 6 minus r must equal 2. So now I know what to set the equation to. 6 minus r equals 2. Now, as a reminder, how do I tell you to solve this equation from the past? I look at the coefficient of the variable I'm solving for, negative. I'm going to move it, circle it, move it to the other side. So it becomes positive over here, which means I'm subtracting the 2 across. 6 minus 2 is 4. And there's my answer. Here's another one. 5 minus, well, if I want to have the numerator be the -2, so remember it's the negative is either the numerator or denominator, I can get that right away with 3 minus 5. 3 minus 5 will give me that -2. So then I have r minus the -4 makes it r plus 4. And that has to equal -2 over 5. Well, the -2 already is there. That is -2. So that means r plus 1 must equal 5. That must equal 5. So what plus 4 is 5? R is 1. Okay, very simple. All right, 6-2, write the point slope form of the equational line. So you got to remember point slope form, or if you don't know, y minus y sub 1 equals m times the quantity x minus x sub 1. Because m is the slope, there's the slope part, and I'm given the point. A point is x sub 1 comma y sub 1. The x sub 1 comma y sub 1 is the point. Okay, it passes through each pair of points. So I have a point already. I have 2 points. I have to choose one of them. It doesn't matter which one. So don't think you have to memorize, oh, it's got to be a certain one. No, it doesn't. Okay, I choose the one that usually has the most positives, because remember, I'm going to be subtracting here. So that way I don't have to remember doing negative times negative and make it a positive. Okay, but I do have to find the slope first. 3 minus -7 is +10. Notice I went right to left this time. Why is that? Because I always like my numerator to be positive. So I calculate in my head, is negative 7 minus 3 positive? No, it's negative, so I'm going the other direction. 3 minus negative 7 is positive 10. 1 minus negative 1 is positive 2. So the slope is 5. So I have y minus 3 equals 5 times the quantity x minus 1. There's point slope form right there. Okay, let's do it one more time. 3 minus 3 is 0 over 9. So slope is 0. Y minus 3 equals 0 times x, the quantity x plus 4. That would be point slope form. Okay, now someone not let you leave like that because 0 times anything is 0. So you'd have y minus 3 equals 0. And some don't like leaving 0 anywhere, so they move the 3 across and you get y equals 3. Okay, and that tells you it's a horizontal line at y equals 3. All the y's are 3 there. Okay. Last one for this is write the standard form of an equation line. Remember, standard form is ax plus by equals c, where a, b, and c are integers, and a is greater than 0. Okay, so those are conditions that have to be true. These are my conditions. Okay. So I'm going to always start in point slope form and then work my way from there. So start with point slope form. And then I will change it into either slope intercept form if it asks me to do that, or standard form as it asks me to do it here. But in either case, I'm going to start with point slope form all the time unless they gave me the slope and the y-intercept. Then I would start in slope intercept form. If it's not given to me for that situation, which neither of these are, I'll always start with point slope form and work my way from there to whatever form they want me to go to. So, and they already give me a point and the slope. So y minus 1 equals 1/4 x minus 20x minus 1. Now remember, there's no fractions. They have to be integers. So I need to get rid of this 4. So I'm going to multiply the entire equation by 4. Now some might think this is easy, but here's the problem. The weaker students don't know the difference between terms or not. So you gotta remember terms are separated by plus or minus signs. So that's a term, and this whole thing is a term because it says 1/4 times. Remember I said they're separated by plus or minus. That whole thing is grouped together. So that whole thing is one term. So I'm only multiplying that whole right side, the right expression, by 4 once. So I get 4y minus 4. The 4's will cancel, so we're left with 1 times the quantity x minus 1, which then is just x minus 1. Now, don't forget, the next thing I have to decide which side to bring the x and the y's to, because x and y are on the same side. But what's my other condition? A has to be positive, so that tells me which side it has to be. A right now is positive on the right side. So that means I have to add that across. 1 minus 4 is negative 3. And I have 1x, or just x, minus 4y. And there's my answer. Okay, and here we have y minus 0 equals negative 1/2 x minus 20 times x minus 6. Again, I have to get rid of the 2. So I multiply the entire equation by 2, so I get 2y. I can just get rid of the 0. The 2's cancel off with negative 1 times the quantity x minus 6. I now go ahead and distribute that negative 1 through there. I get negative x plus 6. Now don't forget, a, which is negative 1, has to be positive. It's not. So I have to move it to the other side. So I have x plus 2y equals 6. And there's my answer. Okay, next page. Writing linear equations in slope-intercept form. So we just got to do point slope form in standard form. Now we're going to go ahead and write it in slope-intercept form. It says for each line graphed to the right, I'm only doing one problem, state the slope. So our slope In order to find the slope, I need to find 2 points on it. That goes through at a corner, and that one goes through at a corner. And now I count up 1, 2, positive 2 for the y, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, positive 5 for the x. So slope is 2/5. The slope, 2/5. State the x and y intercepts. X-intercept is right here at -5, 0, and the y-intercept is 0, what, 2. So we're across the y-axis. And write the equation in slope-intercept form now. Well, don't forget I already calculated the slope. So I have that, 2/5 x, and I have the y-intercept of 2, 0, 2. And so there's my equation in slope-intercept form. So I started with that because I calculated the slope and already have the y-intercept given to me at 2. Find the x and y-intercepts of the graph of the equation. What form is this in? Standard form. And we've written down before, I think I have, I can't remember now because I've done so many videos here recently. The two easiest points to plot in standard form are the x and y-intercepts. So we're trying to find the x and y-intercepts, which is what it's asking. So it's already setting me up to do that. X-intercept, change the color. Y is always, oops, I can change it. Y is always 0. So I cover up the y, and I get 3x equals -7, so -7/3 when I solve that. And for the y-intercept, x is 0. So if x is 0, you get y equals 7. Okay. Find the slope and the y-intercept of the graph of each equation. So we want the slope and the y-intercept. So what form deals with slope and y-intercept? The slope-intercept form, which means solve for y. Now again, if I'm going to solve for y, look at the very long term to solve for. I look at this coefficient, it's negative. So I'm moving it to the other side to make it positive. So I'll never have to divide by negative, which means then the constant is going across. So now I have 2y equals 7x minus 9. Last step, divide each term. Make sure you say it right by 2. So now I have y. I'm just switching both sides. Y equals 7x minus 9. I just put the y to the left now. The right expression I move to the left side, and the left expression I move to the right side is all I've done. It's still the same thing. Okay. Oh, and it says find it now, not just write it, find it. So m is 7, and b is 0, -9. Write equation standard form, ax plus by. I've already talked about that. The passes through 8 pair of points. So remember, I told you I'm going to start with point slope form, which means I have a point, but I need a slope. Change in y, -2 minus -6. That's change in y over change in x. Again, I went this direction because I want my numerator to be positive. -5 minus 1, change in x. Okay, so I get 6 minus 2 is 4, and -5 minus 1 is -6. And that simplifies down to -2/3 for m. So now I'm going to pick the one with the least amount of negatives. So y plus 6 equals -2/3 times the quantity x minus 1. Okay. Now remember standard form, no fractions. So I have to go ahead now and get rid of the fraction by multiplying the entire equation by the common denominator. In this case, there's only 1, so 3. When I say 1, that means all the other denominators are already 1, so I'm not counting that. I'm counting denominators other than 1. So 3y plus 18 equals, the 3's cancel, well, -2 times the quantity x minus 1. Distribute that through there, and I get -2x plus 2 equals 3y plus 18. Now, again, I look at the coefficient of the y, the one I'm solving, x, because I need it to be ax. A has to be positive. A is right here, ax. Is that positive? No, it's not, so I need to move it to the other side, which means then the constant goes to the other side. So now I have 2x plus 3y, because the 3 is already positive, I'm not changing it. And I have 2 minus 18 is -16. And there's my answer. Okay, next page. Parallel and perpendicular lines. 2 words for each. Parallel. First off, you should know the symbol for parallel is that, because you're going to use that in geometry. Anyway, the 2 words are same slope that you want to remember. So I'm looking at their slopes of both of these versus perpendicular. Okay, and the perpendicular symbol is that in geometry, or just the upside down T. Sometimes it has a right angle symbol on it, sometimes it doesn't. And the 2 words I want you remembering for that are negative reciprocal. You don't spell reciprocal, you just have NEG for negative, REC for reciprocal. Okay, so, and we want to write the equation in slope-intercept form. Make sure you know what form you put it in. Okay, right now it's a standard form, right? You should always be reviewing the names of your forms. All right, and we want it to be parallel in this case. So parallel, same slope is the one we want. We have to find the slope for this. Again, I'm solving for y. That's negative, so I'm going to move it across and move this across. So I have 4y equals 5x minus 1. Last step, divide each term by 4. And my coefficient of my x is the slope, 5/4. So m is 5/4, and I want the parallel slope, which then is also 5/4. It's the same slope. And the point they give me is that. So now I'm going to start with point slope form. Y minus 2 equals, let's change the color up here. Y minus 2 equals the slope, 5/4 times the quantity x minus the minus 8 makes it plus 8. Again, I have to get rid of the fraction. Oh, no, I'm going slope-intercept form. I don't have to get rid of the fraction. I'm just solving for y. So I can go ahead and distribute this through here, right here, and then add the 2 across. So I'm going to do all that. 5/4 x. I'm going to go 8 divided by 4 is 2 times 5 is 10. Plus the 2 across, adding the 2 across. And now I need to combine like terms. 5/4 x plus 12 is my answer. Okay, writing equation in slope-intercept form, just like we did before. This time it's perpendicular. So that means negative reciprocal. Write it down right below it, negative reciprocal, so you don't forget. So I need to solve for y. The y is positive, so I'm leaving it there, so I'm moving the 2x across. So it becomes negative 2x plus 3. Last step, divide by 10 on each term. Negative 2/10 reduced to negative 1/5 x. That's my slope. My slope is negative 1/5. Remember, slope does not contain the x. A lot of Algebra 1 students mess it up. And they'll say the slope here is negative 1/5 x. Wrong. The slope is the m. It's a number only, negative 1/5. So this m is negative 1/5. But remember, I want the perpendicular slope, which is the negative reciprocal, which is 5/1, which equals 5. And then I'm using that point. So now I go ahead and write it out. Y minus the y coordinate equals the slope times x minus the x coordinate. Okay, distribute that through and add the 3 across. 5x minus 10, add the 3 across. Negative 10 plus 3 is negative 7. And there's my answer. All right, there you go with that one. And that is it. 19 minutes.